Have you ever thought that a simple act of an animal, it could save a human life, is a tragedy? It almost right thing to do? Looks like something out of a movie, but it's stories like this happen in real life, and they will make you question everything that we think about on instinct, loyalty, and what is possible when it comes to compassion. In this story, a dog, which everyone in the neighborhood knew each other from their daily routine, turns out to be a real hero, in a way that no one could have predicted. What is it that makes it even all the more surprising is that this attitude on the part of courage and intelligence, which occurred just one day, a seemingly ordinary, for a routine to waste, something that goes on all the time without a lot of emotion or special events. But just like in those stories that make us reflect on, something shifted in that moment, something that no one could have imagined. Have you ever gone through something that seemed to be insignificant, but it is, in truth, it would change his life forever? Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out. Now you can surprise you in ways that you may not, you can think of. It all started on the morning of goods, with the sun shining brightly and gently, and the movement of the routine of the city going with no major new features. The employees of the garbage, they were conducting their business as usual, collecting the bags, walking through the streets, and following this routine for over a typical day. But all of a sudden, something caught the attention of a strange movement came in with a dog in a neighborhood well known for their loyalty and companionship. He seemed to be restless, agitated, something that was unusual in that morning. And as the minutes ticked by, the behavior of the animal was left all the villagers and workers of the hair standing on end, because at that moment, it seemed that the dog was just barking for due. He had a purpose in an emergency, a quest that no one could possibly understand at the time. And from there, the story took a direction that no one could have imagined, revealing a powerful link between an animal and a human life that was to come. Do you have any idea what could be going on? Get ready, because the next thing that happens will hold even more in this narrative, full of excitement and amazing discoveries. If you identify with "This is a journey of discovery and excitement," leave in the comments what else has touched your heart or what was the most aroused his curiosity. Your feedback is vital for us to create content that is a lot closer to what you care about, and you need to listen to it. In addition, this type of story, it makes sense to you. Don't forget to like the video. It helps others to spread this message and get more people to participate in such a community that seeks to understand and appreciate these special moments of connection. And, of course, if you want to continue to accompany each chapter of this narrative, please subscribe to the channel. Your support makes a big difference, because it is the one that drives our mission is to share stories, play, teach, and inspire. Here, every comment, every like, and every subscription and reinforces our commitment to creating a space for the emotion, and hope to find it, and where we all learned a thing or two about the power of the bond humans and animals alike. So, stay with me, because there is a lot of stuff coming up in the story that promises to surprise and to thrill you. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation does not come from the grand gestures or the changes that seem to be outside, but for a more in-depth understanding of the impact that our decisions have on our journey. Many times we go through life, we believe that what defines us is what we have accomplished, what you have built up, or the one that we show to the world. But the truth is hidden. That is, that it all starts within us. In the choice of silent, they do it every single day. In these decisions, no matter how simple it may seem, you have the power to change the course of our history and to open doors to opportunities that not even realize it exists. At the heart of these discussions is the idea that a true transformation requires an open-mindedness, a willingness to genuine to ask questions about what you are comfortable with and embrace the unknown. It is a process of self-discovery, which often uncovers old wounds, fears, present or limiting beliefs that we have without realizing it. I would imagine that many of you have experienced moments in which the decision appears to be small, turned out to be the bridge to something bigger, a career change to a more healthy, a new passion, or even to reconnect with what really makes our eyes sparkle. With these choices, when made with the intention of and the courage to reveal the impact of a mindset that seeks to evolve, and you are not satisfied with the status quo, but do you really want to transform themselves? However, it is important to understand that this is a journey of change doesn't happen from one minute to the next. It is built up gradually through small actions that, when added together, to create a real revolution in the house. And a lot of times, this is where you find the biggest challenge is to keep the focus on the change, even when the world is out there and insists on us to push back to what you are comfortable with, what you already know. It is at this point that the truth is hidden is revealed. The greatest impact is in the processing happens at the time of the resistance, when you decide to persist, even with a heavy heart, and even with the questions pounding in my head. It is here that we discover the true power of the commitment of our development. And it is precisely this process that the behind the scenes of your own mind becomes a battlefield, on one hand, and the voice of the fear that tries to convince us that it is better to stay in the safe zone, and that risk is dangerous and useless to you. On the other, the hope is that what we want is within reach, just take the first step. This inner struggle is the one that, sometimes, he reveals the greatest power. The ability to choose to believe in the possibility, even when the evidence seems to indicate otherwise. otherwise. Because, after all, the greatest revelation that this day brings to us is that the change is not an isolated event, but one decision you're daily, an ongoing commitment to reinvent yourself and pursue what really makes sense for us. To dive deeper into this universe of choices and mindset, we find that the transformation is also the question of the impact. Every decision you make echoes in our history, as well as in the lives of those around us. When you have decided to act with authenticity, courage, and purpose, we are not only changing our narrative, but it also influences the lives, inspires someone else who may be living in a situation like this, waiting for a spark of hope to light your own flame. It is as if each and every step is taken with the intent to become a seed that germinates in new ways, which reveals the hidden potential in every single one of us. In the process, behind the scenes of your mind to become still more evident. It was there, in those moments of silence, every doubt, every fear, every hope, are woven together in a web of invisible, which determines the course of our history. So, to learn how to listen to the voice within, understand the source, and especially to train our minds so that it will be a strong ally in the pursuit of growth, it is of fundamental importance. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to your ability to believe in our own power, to see beyond the apparent limitations, and to realize that true change starts within each and every decision that we make. And then, at that exact moment, the result is a new understanding. The journey of transformation is non-linear. It is filled with lots of ups and downs, moments of doubt, and of course, the losses and the gains. It's a roller coaster of emotions that, if faced with courage, he reveals the very essence of what we are able to conquer it when we align our actions with our deepest values. And it is this connection between what we feel, think, and we have decided is that, in practice, it builds a long-lasting impact on our lives and on those who observe it from up close or far away. Many times, not realizing how much of a decision, it can be a bridge of hope. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth hidden behind the success, happiness, and the meaning of our existence. And it is precisely in this way that we choose to face these times of change. On the basis of what has already been revealed, it becomes clear that the true transformation is to go on a journey of self-discovery, courage to face your own limits, and a commitment to a mindset that values growth more than anything else. And in doing so, we can see that each of these tasks, on each block, this is an opportunity disguised as a learning experience, a chance to strengthen our belief that we are capable of rewriting our history, whether in the past or in the external environment. In order for this transformation to be real and lasting, it is important to understand that it requires an attitude of openness and accountability. Not enough to wait for others to change, or what the conditions are in accordance with our, and if we don't start with ourselves. Every decision, every thought, every action is a fundamental building block in the construction. And then, when you realize that we can begin to see life from a new perspective, a view which takes full advantage of the power of our own will to change, to learn, to evolve. This is the true essence of transformation that affects not only the present, but also to shape the future in a way that it is not always possible to imagine from the start of the journey. And so, as I reflect back on all of this, it becomes clear that it's all in the guts to make more informed choices, to embrace the unknown, with the hope and understanding that it is the most powerful thing happens when we take the first step with an open heart. Because in the end, it all comes down to a simple matter of a decision. Are you willing to turn your life around, to defy their own limitations, and to discover the potential that lies inside of you? This is the question that remains up in the air, inviting you to an answer that could change everything. And in the meantime, the journey continues by revealing new opportunities, new challenges, and especially new truths she decides to act, unable to really discover. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation doesn't just happen on the surface. It is rooted in the core of our decision-making and intimate. Many times we get caught in the illusion that the outside changes, may do all things, but is in fact what really drives our journey. It's the courage to confront what you're hiding inside of you. It is at this moment, in the stillness of the quiet, we begin to understand the real barriers that prevent us from moving forward. And in this situation, most of the time, they are not in the physical or external, but rather the mental, the emotional, and built over the years, the limitations, concerns, and fears that have built up as if they were rocks in the way. When you start to think about our own story, we realize that a lot of limitations on what we believe to be outside, in fact, is the result of an internal narrative that we have created and are expanding on a daily basis. In this narrative, too many times, and it is fueled by the belief that you don't even ask, as I am not able, I'm feeling lucky, or I don't deserve anything better. These phrases, which seem to be small, they have a colossal impact on our perception of reality and our ability to take action. And this is where comes the importance of a mindset, a design that is many a mistake, but it is a must-have for any true transformation. A change of mentality. It requires a conscious effort to reschedule those limiting thoughts. It's like if you were to be a revolution in the domestic, in a silent war against a thing that is stopping us from being who we really can be. You will begin to notice that many of your decisions are guided toward detours for those old patterns and become aware of it, he has the power to rewrite them. It is a process of self-discovery that takes courage, because when you open the doors for your own interior, you will also be faced with the parts of you that would prefer to be able to hide. But believe me, this is the match that is the most powerful force for progress. From the moment you decide to challenge those beliefs, you create a new internal narrative, a story that speaks to the possibilities of growth, courage, and triumph. This change in perspective has a direct impact on your way of looking at the world and in their actions every day, and especially your ability to make decisions that are aligned with your true potential. It's like all of a sudden, a new lens is put in front of your eyes and revealing the details before you, valuable opportunities that are before you seemed to be distant or even impossible. This is a movement of transformation. It also reveals a behind the scenes of our mind and all the internals and mechanisms which often operate in an automatic manner without notice. That's what's important for you to develop a conscience, for example, from the understanding that every thought, every emotion, every decision, it's a piece of the large puzzle that shape who we are and who we can become. It is not fast, nor is it something that happens by chance, but a building on a daily, made up of small choices that, added together, to create a new reality. And in this way, it is essential to understand the impact of a change of this nature will go a long way beyond what we could ever imagine. It echoes in every aspect of our lives, impacting our relationships, our emotional health, our careers, our dreams of a more exciting. When we have the space for such processing, we turn to an inner strength that many times we don't know the power that drives us to act, even in the face of fear, insecurity, or doubt. The truth hides behind all this is that, deep down, we're the ones who take control of our own story. And then, to take on such a role, we begin to realize that life is not a matter of chance, but of the choices. Each of the decision-making of today's fashions which will be tomorrow. And it is this awareness, attitude, to take over the control, that is, the difference between those who remain stuck in their limitations, for those who choose to break free from the chains and move forward with courage. That is why it is so important to not only understand these concepts, but they also feel like they are a part of the journey. More in depth, it is a real revolution on the inside, in a journey that requires patience, persistence, and above all, a genuine desire to improve. And as we've explored in these behind the scenes in the mind, we can begin to see a new version of ourselves, the stronger, more aware, and more prepared to take on whatever life put in our way. All I know is that many times, the greatest challenge lies in the decision to move forward, even when everything seems to be up in the air. But that is exactly the essence of true transformation, the courage to take the next step, and you don't know exactly what's ahead of you, because deep down, that this is the only way to discover our true potential, to reveal the hidden truths that we have, and create a story that is actually worth living. And when you do that, you start to realize that the change is not a one-off event, but an ongoing process, with a constant evolution that goes on every day, in every decision, and the new understanding that we have brought upon ourselves. And so, on this journey of self-discovery, each time for reflection and decision-making to challenge the limit, this becomes a very important part in the construction of a life more in tune with who you really are. It is a journey of discoveries and insights that only those who decide to take action is able to discover. And in the end, it all comes down to having the courage to look inside and recognize who has the most impact on our lives is our own decision to change. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that a lot of people get lost, not realizing that the real power of change is in your capacity to question things that seem to go without saying. When you can't look inside and face our own truths, we can begin to understand that a lot of the limitations that we have are, in fact, the buildings that we accept them without question. These limitations are often a part of a story that has been deployed on in life, in society, or even to the traumatic experiences that, over time, were transformed into invisible walls around ourselves. The large balcony is to see that these walls, for a more solid as they might seem, they are made up of perceptions, thoughts, and feelings, which we can, however, break down. And this is where it comes to the importance of mindset. If you don't change the way you see yourself and the world around us, and our decisions will continue to be constrained by the old patterns of fear and insecurities that seem to be unchangeable. But the truth is hidden. It all starts in our heads, on our way to the interpretation of the experiments in which we live. When we understand this, we begin to realize that we all have the power to rewrite history, build up new opportunities, from an inner change needs. And this, many times, it is about having the courage to face up to your own light, to accept that not everything is perfect, that there are wounds that are still open questions, and insist on joining us. It is like taking a journey of self-discovery, where, at each time step, we find a deeper level of our being. In this case, the impact is immediate. From the moment in which we decide to do something, life is starting to respond in a different way, more in tune with what you really want. The opportunities that arise, all decisions become more and more clear, and even the people around you will begin to understand that transformation is a silent, almost almost invisible, but it makes a world of difference. However, it is important to realize that this path isn't a straight line. There are ups, downs, moments of doubt and crisis, because the transform is not just to change your clothes or style of living, but rather a renewal of the deep in the very core of our being. And here comes the revelation that the impact of the change that happens in our mind, in our ability to stay focused, even when things seem to be falling apart. It is at this point that many people give up because they did not realize that the power to move forward is the decision to continue, regardless of the external circumstances. Every decision we make, every action we choose, they are the seeds that will germinate in our journey of evolution. And if you are feeding this growth mindset, we find that the largest impact of all of this, it is not only in the external changes, but internal transformation, which we do on a daily basis. And so we come to understand that true freedom is about having control over our own thoughts and emotions, and to decide who we are and who we want to be, even in the face of adversity. This is the essence of the transformation, is that it really does make a difference. A change that goes way beyond the surface and gets to the root of our being, that's where it starts, and it can all be rebuilt. Now I want you to go even deeper on this topic, because the truth is that a lot of the times we forget that this is a journey of change, is not only to achieve significant results, but when you realize the impact it has on our way of looking at life. When we get to transform our way of thinking, everything around us becomes one to reflect at the new version of ourselves. It's like a wave that propagates, leading to inspiration, encouragement, and hope to those who are still on the edge, hesitating, waiting for the perfect time never arrives. In fact, it's the perfect time is one of the many people decide to build it from a conscious decision to change, which is more in line with who you really are. This revelation is a powerful tool for those who want to make their own reality, because it shows us that change is not dependent on external factors, but it is a change in the internal DC. It is a journey of discovery that requires persistence, patience, and above all, with a real commitment to the truth. And when you realize this, we can begin to understand that the most profound impact is not what you earn on the outside, but what we treasure is within us, in our lives, in our way of thinking. That's the true transformation, one that leaves a lasting impression that will influence the final shape, the whole of our history. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely in this moment of reflection that a lot of people are beginning to understand something that is often lost in the rush of day-to-day, the true force that shapes our decisions, which influence our actions, and that, at the end of the day, you determine the impact you left on this world. This is not outside, not to the circumstances or fortune, but it was born there, deeply rooted in our mind, in our deepest values. It is a kind of the foundation of the invisible that sustains the whole of our journey, a lot of times that's hidden under the layers of insecurity, fear, or doubt, but which, when it was discovered and worked on, it turns it all around us. The truth is hidden. It's that no matter how many times we can seek improvement of the outside, the real change happens first, in the way that we see ourselves. It's like a cycle of our own internal feed for our stock, which in turn reinforces those beliefs. For example, if we believe that we will not be able to achieve great things, unconsciously, we create barriers to confirm this. But on the contrary, when we turn to the power of our mind, we begin to question these limitations on ourselves. It is liberating because it gives us an understanding of the impact that we seek in the world, begins with a decision, by a simple but powerful, to believe in his or her ability to transform. And the journey of transformation is about having the courage, because a lot of the time, she challenges him to that which is deeply rooted in our history, our culture, our way of looking at the world. It is necessary, above all, a conscious decision to face our own limitations, to open space for new perspectives and embrace the possibility of change. In the process, you'll discover that it prevents us from too many times when it is not in the outside world, but our own internal resistance. It's a battle of the silent, often invisible, but which, when defeated, it reveals an inner strength that seemed to be unreachable. From that point on, everything starts to make more sense of it. The small actions of day-to-day, they gain a whole new dimension because it will reflect a mentality that is more in tune with our dreams and values. Each and every decision, no matter how simple it may seem, it is a good opportunity to reaffirm who we are and who we want to become. And it is in this movement of self-awareness that we have found that the change isn't something that happens on a day to night, but it's a solid construction and a journey of self-discovery, which requires patience and persistence. After all, it's not enough to just want change. You have to be ready to evolve, to learn from their own mistakes, and to keep the focus on what really matters to you. To understand the impact of domestic, we have become more and more aware of the power we have to influence our own history, because deep down, all part of a decision to decide what we're capable of, what do we evolve, and what can we overcome the internal obstacles that seem insurmountable. And that decision, no matter how simple it may seem, it is the starting point of a lasting change, not just in the looks, but it's reflected in the very heart of who we are. And when you realize this, we become more aware of our actions, our words, and our own choices, knowing that that every step forward on that path, it's an opportunity to reaffirm our true strength. The journey of self-discovery, therefore, is not merely a search for external success, but it is a quest for authenticity, for an alignment between what we think and what we do. It is a movement of transformation. It is about having the courage to face their own truths, even if they seem uncomfortable or challenging. But at the same time, it is in this conflict that we find the freedom to be who we really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. And this is freedom. This is the one that gives meaning to the whole of the journey, because it connects us to our very essence, the purest, the truth that is hidden. That is, a lot of times, it is hidden under the layers of insecurity and fear of being judged. When we see the truth, it all becomes more slight. And every decision will have a different weight. We know that we are in line with what they believe to be right. This connection to our lives, he gives us a power that goes beyond the surface, and a force that pushes us forward even in the face of adversity, the more difficult to make. And along the way, we've learned that the greatest change is not to gain something from outside, but to transform our way of thinking, to transform the way we see the world and ourselves. It is a silent revolution, which first takes place in our heads, but that reverberates throughout our lives. And then, in the midst of all of this, it is crucial to remember that this journey is not alone. Each and every step that we take in knowledge of self, each and every decision, to believe in our ability to have an impact not only in our history, but also to those around us. Because as we change internally, we have started to have a positive impact on the environment around you, creating a chain of impacts that can do so much more than we think. And in return, we found out that real change is a collective, and that it is strengthened to the extent that it can connect to them with the truth and the truth of the other. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this topic, because with the understanding that it all begins within ourselves is the key to unlocking a new stage in our journey. It is at this point that we begin to understand that real change requires a conscious decision to reprogram the mind to let go of the old standard and to embrace a new mindset. It is a process of internal reconstruction, where every belief and customers that you leave behind opens up space for a new perspective on the possibilities. And in doing so, we are the protagonists of our own history and have been able to create a story more in line with our dreams, deepest desires, and most authentic. This transformation, however, is not straightforward or easy. It requires the stamina to stand up to the questions, the courage to challenge what they have been taught or learned in the course of the year, and a dose of humility is to recognize that there is always more to learn. It is a movement of self-development and constant, where each and every achievement of internal strengthens our self-confidence and prepares them to face new challenges. And at the same time, it teaches us that the real impact of what we have left in the world is the result of such a journey of self-discovery and the courage to remain faithful to the truth, regardless of the external circumstances. That is why it is so important to cultivate this awareness every day, feeding our minds with positive thoughts and actions are aligned with our core values and a strong determination to improve. Because at the end of the day, the greatest change happens when we learn to look within, to accept who we are, in fact, and to create an all-new story based on our authenticity. And it is at this point that we discovered that the most lasting impact on the one they can see it or measure it, but that's what we were able to generate in our souls and the core of our being. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the real journey of transformation that occurs only in the external actions or in the tangible results that we've achieved along the way. It is, above all, the quiet revolution of the internal, in change of mind, and allows us to see beyond the limitations that have often been imposed by ourselves or the world around us. This is a change of perspective. It's like a door that opens to a world of possibilities, and where the authenticity is no longer an abstract idea, and it is a compass that guides each and every choice, every decision, every step taken in the direction of our dreams, more of the deep. Many of the times, we believe that the transformation is related to the great achievements or the achievements of the outside, but in reality, it begins with the courage to confront our own personal truths and to face what they have avoided, or we, out of fear, insecurity, or a routine that is on hold. This calls for a dose of honesty brutal with ourselves and others, and a genuine desire to find out who our true selves, stripped of their masks, no filters, no need to please or prove anything to each other. It's an exercise in self-awareness that makes us question everything we've learned in the course of a lifetime, all of the stories that we tell, and they often remain invisible thresholds that prevent us from moving forward. At the same time, this is a journey of self-discovery has revealed that the transformation is not a one-off event, but a series of small decisions day in and day out. You're going to mold our minds and strengthen our core. Every conscious choice to act with authenticity, to listen to our inner voice, giving priority to our deepest values, and contributes to a lasting change. It is as if a positive decision, it was like a seed planted in the fertile soil of our soul, which over time creates a forest of chance, seemed to be unattainable. And in this forest, it is the result of a sustained effort, the dedication, which often requires a sacrifice, but one that, in essence, is a form of self-love and about our own own journey. However, it is not always easy to maintain that focus, especially when the impact of the outside world insists on pulling into a fast-paced to the opinions of others, or the expectations that we have created ourselves. This is where it comes to the question of courage to stand firm in what we believe to be true, even if it means walking in the opposite direction or give up certain comforts. This nerve is one of the greatest strengths that can be developed because it allows us to resist the temptations of a life of the surface, and he invites us to immerse themselves in the essence. It actually hides many of the times we would prefer to conceal. And when you do that, you start to realize that the real change has to do with the impact, but not one that is measured by numbers or external recognition. It's an impact that is quiet, that echoes in our soul, which changes our view of the world and makes us see more clearly our own light. In this light, it was often concealed by the layers of fear, doubt, or conditions of the back. The light intensity is blazing the trail for a life that is more in tune with who you really are. In this process, we have discovered that the authenticity is not a final destination, but rather a daily practice of courage and honesty. And it is this practice that has the power to transform not only our history, but also to the stories of those around us, creating a string of the positive impact that goes beyond the words. It's a kind of a silent revolution in which each step is a conscious, have the potential to impact lives in such a profound way, even though it may not always be noticeable right away. This one is a beauty on a journey of truth to it. It is built in a state, into the authenticity and the desire to evolve, always trying to be the best version of yourself, not forgetting who you really are deep down inside. He comments that it makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, as it is the understanding of the behind the scenes of this transformation that we found the keys to unlocking lasting change. Many times, people get lost on the surface of the stock, to the extent that it appears to be the most obvious thing, and you end up letting go of the tangible impact that our decisions can have on our own history and in those that are around us. It is as if we were navigating a pool of possibilities, but without taking into account that the depth is only revealed when you dive headlong into the very core of what really matters to you. When we speak of evolution, and it is not only conquering the results are visible, such as a new job, a change in routine, or even a triumph in the material. The real transformation is rooted in a change of mind, in the way that we interpret the world and ourselves. Such a change in the inner quiet, a lot of times it happens in the quiet moments, when we stop to reflect, to question our own choices. It is in this silence that we discover the hidden truths about who we are, in fact, deviations, which is often avoided in the course of the path, for the fear of disruption is higher than the willingness to grow. And that's what one of the biggest revelations from the impact of our daily decisions. Each attitude, each and every thought that we have cultivated, it may not seem like much at first glance, but if you look closely, you will see that they are going to mold our way of the powerful. When we decided to, for instance, to drop an easy excuse and to take responsibility for what happens to us, we can begin to create a new narrative for our lives. This is a narrative that is at the foundation of our transformation, and it acts as an invisible thread that connects our actions to our deeper purpose. And it is precisely in this connection, it will tell you how much we are able to go beyond the limitations of which, oftentimes, we create in our own minds. The truth is hidden behind this journey is that the real change doesn't happen just by force of will, but by a deeper understanding of who we are and who we want to be. With this understanding comes from self-knowledge, to explore their limitations and, at the same time, to challenge the beliefs that we are in the trap. Many times, you'll see a history of defeat or frustration that keeps us from moving forward, and we can only break it when you come to terms with these thoughts, and with the courage to admit that they don't define who we really are. This is the courage to look within, and to recognize in one's own vulnerability, and that is the true fuel for a transformation that goes beyond the look, reaching to the core of what makes us human to the core. And then I realize I have been on this journey, though it seems to be silent for those who are not aware. This is an internal revolution that takes place on an ongoing basis. Each made a conscious decision, each time for reflection. It's a piece that fits in the construction of a new reality. And this in turn affects not only our lives, but also the impact that we make on the world around us. After all, when you decide to evolve, we are also contributing to a cascading effect of the changes, and that the echo in the society, in relationships, in the way that we view our challenges as well. To understand this, it is clear that the higher power is in your hands, the power to choose the direction they want to go, to turn obstacles into opportunities, and to discover, in the journey that often is hidden in between the lines of our daily lives. It is an opportunity to constantly reinvent himself, to look for the things that really give meaning to life, not to get carried away by the fear of the unknown. And this, even though it is often a lonely one, it is also a deep emotional connection with what is most true in the US. And then, when you think about all of this, one thing is clear. It is a transformation, not an endpoint, but rather a continuous journey of discovery from the small everyday victories, which taken together, they build a narrative of courage, authenticity, and impact. This is a journey that reveals the true power to change our story, even though from the outside it seems to be silent, invisible to many people. Because deep down, that she is the greatest revolution, that someone could be the one that happens first within yourself, in a subtle way, but with a bang that echoed through the whole of your life. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me," or write one word that means to you. This breakthrough, such a great message, that is the only one who lives, is able to understand the truth. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is where, at the heart of this transformation is silent, and that is the true secret to lasting change. Many people think that in order to transform your life, you need the big gestures, and making radical, or even a willingness endless. But the reality is that the most powerful force for change is, in short, almost invisible, but ever-changing mindset. It is in this subtle movement that's all starting to form, as if it were a sculpture, made out carefully, layer by layer, reveal their true form. This is an inner change does not happen from one minute to the next. It is built with small daily choices, with the courage to face the truths that a lot of times we would prefer to conceal or ignore it for fear of what we might discover about ourselves. Every decision we make, however small it may seem to you, it's like a seed that germinates in the fertile soil of our mind. And then, a lot of times, the impact is not noticeable immediately, but it is a deep one. Like a stream of water that you dig a hole through the rock, slowly, these small actions are going to shaping who we are, what we believe, and how we act in the face of the world. This is where the concept of transformation, it becomes clear that she doesn't need to greatness. For it to be real, it requires consistency, persistence, and openness to learning from each and every block, every doubt, every failure that comes your way. When you realize that, to many to discover that the real power lies in the ability to change the narrative on the inside. In this narrative, which often carry as a duffel bag full of limitations, limiting beliefs and fears that are rooted. In these stories, built in, many times you don't even realize, shape our choices, and therefore our reality. Working in such a narrative, it's how to rewrite a script that you have already looked set, to give space to new possibilities, new perspectives, and a mindset that is more open and receptive to the change. It is a kind of internal revolution, which when well fed, it becomes an invisible force, but it was irresistible, capable of transforming all the way. And such a journey of transformation, it also reveals a behind the scenes of our minds, which often serves as a venue for internal conflict. The one hand, we have the fear of the unknown, in the area of comfort it is, and on the other, with a genuine desire to evolve, to break through barriers, and to reach a level of higher consciousness and the fulfillment. Get to know these behind the scenes is critical for us to understand how our choices are influenced by the old standard, a legacy of past experiences, or even to the impression that we have incurred in the course of life. You recognize in these behind the scenes with the very first step in slowing down the pace of one's mind, to question what is truth, and especially, to understand the impact that our own beliefs are in the way how we see the world, and, most importantly, to yourself. In the process, and the fact it hides many of the times it is at our own risk. In the courage to admit that we still have doubts, fears, or worries, and that it's okay to feel like this. The latter is a great bridge for a real change, because it frees us from the weight of perfection is an illusion, thus allowing the transformation to take place so much lighter and more natural. When we let go of unrealistic expectations, we can look into it with more clarity, and to see one's own limitations without a trial, and thus, to make room for it to evolve to its authenticity. In this connection, the core of it is what really stimulates for any journey of transformation, because it is here that we find out the true impact of the one who abides in addition to the external environment. And as we go forward in the understanding, we can begin to understand the impact of the change in the internal echo in our own way of relating to the world. In this mindset, it generates a different power, a position that is more conscious and authentic, and that it influences everything around us. It's as if, when you turn to who we are inside, we are also changing the way we interact with the people, the opportunities, and even with all the obstacles that appear in your way. This change is invisible, what happens to the soul, and it ends up manifesting itself in the practice of creating a new reality. Rather, it seemed to be impossible. This is the link between the internal and the external, which is where the magic of a real revolution in the silence. You can impact generations and leave a legacy of progress and hope. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this topic, because this is a journey of self-discovery, and a change of mindset is to be an open door to the revelations that only a few have the courage to explore it. What's really on the limit is often not the external circumstances, but on the belief that we have about ourselves and the world. These beliefs, often unconsciously, to act as a filter that distorts our perception, and that, if they are not taken as they become absolute truths that keep us from moving forward. The big question is, how do we identify these patterns, these stories of domestic, that we don't even notice you, and begin deconstructing them in a way that is sustainable and is true? The answer to this lies in the courage to go deeply into the very essence, to question all of the things that has been imposed on, and to pursue, in a conscious way, with a whole new meaning to our experiences. This is the quest for self-knowledge is often reveal hidden truths that were hidden under a layer of a routine, distractions, or worries. Find out these truths is liberating because it gives us the opportunity to rewrite our story to create an all-new story based on the authenticity and the courage to be who you really are. And it's this authenticity that, in turn, is the one who gives you the strength to face challenges with a more lightly on the planet. We are not bound to a mask or with the expectation of the outside. We are aligned with our truth, and it is this deep connection is what fuels the fire of change. That is, the same quiet. It becomes an irresistible force capable of transforming lives from the inside to the outside in a way that no one can take away from us. At this point of reflection, it is clear that the impact of that journey is much more than goals or achievements that are or external. She has become a true metamorphosis of the soul, a chance to reconnect with the deeper purpose of existence. When we align our actions with our values, and everything takes on a new meaning. And this is clearly born out of the understanding that real change starts in the mind, in the way that we think about who we are, what we want, and what we believe to be possible. From then on, every decision, every step you take, it becomes an expression of our mind, which, little by little, it becomes that which seemed to be set in stone. This is the essence of the silent revolution, the transformation that happens on the first inside, and in a subtle way, but with a bang that echoed through the whole of our history of building deep and lasting roots that support our development. He comments that it makes no sense to me, or write one word that means to you. This breakthrough, such a great message, that is the only one who lives is able to understand the truth. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation doesn't happen all of a sudden. It is built day after day, like a sculpture. You're getting so slowly, revealing details invisible to the eyes of those who don't pay attention to the small signs. It is in this subtle movement is the secret to a lasting change, one that does not limit itself to the surface, but it really touches the core of who we are. Oftentimes, the journey starts with a decision, though apparently simple, the awakening silent, which leads us to question everything they believe to be the truth. And at this moment in our mind is a fertile ground for new possibilities, where long-held beliefs begin to crumble, giving way to a new mindset, more aware, more in tune with what really matters to you. The truth is hidden behind this transformation is that it does not rely on big events or circumstances and external appearance. On the contrary, it arises from our ability to see, to pay attention, to listen to what our soul has revealed to us in the moments of silence, to reflect on our own decisions and understand the impact they are having on our journey. It is as if, for behind the curtains of the daily routine, there is an invisible force which works silently, so in the mold, revealing the patterns of behavior that often go unnoticed. When we see one of these scenes, we can begin to understand that true power lies in our ability to choose different paths of rewriting the stories before they seem to be here to stay, and to take responsibility for each and every step that we take in this journey of self-discovery. This is a change of mindset. It appears as inconspicuous at first glance. It has a domino effect that reverberates throughout our lives. Each and every decision, however small it may seem, bears the potential for impact is huge, as it influences not only our present, but also what we're building for the future. It's as if you're planting seeds unseen that will grow over time, giving rise to a new version of ourselves. And herein lies the beauty of this journey. It calls for the courage to face up to the truth that is hidden, the courage to challenge your comfort zone, and the courage to give up old patterns that no longer serve you more. The courage, in fact, this is one of the most important tools in our transformation, because it pushes us forward even when everything seems to be uncertain or difficult. In the course of this process, we can begin to understand that our emotions, which previously seemed to dominate our days, and can be trained, directed, so help us build this new reality. Emotional intelligence becomes a powerful ally because it gives us the clarity to sort out what is really important and what is in the passenger seat. And with that clarity, we are able to make choices that are more aligned with our purpose. Building a connection is the most genuine thing that moves us to the truth. It is at this point that the transformation is no longer something foreign and goes on to be an in-house expertise, a development that takes place in the layers of deep, often invisible to the eye, but is noticeable in the way you look at life, the way of relating to the world, and the way you feel when you wake up each morning. However, this journey is not linear. It takes patience, resilience, and a dose of humility is to recognize that there is always more to learn how to let go and transform. With every step, however small it may seem, it is a victory in itself, as it confirms that we are heading in the right direction, even if that's the way it is still full of corners. And at the same time, we realize that such a development is not an accomplishment of individuals secluded, but it is a connection to something larger, a force that pushes us forward, even when the exhaustion is knocking at the door. It is this connection that gives us hope, for us to remember that we are all on a journey of discovery, growth, and transformation in a silent but of a great impact. And if you think about all of this, it is clear that this revolution is built like a bridge between those who were and who we can become. It is an invitation to look within, to discover the mysteries that are hidden in our lives, and understand that real change is born from the inside to the outside. That's the beauty of it all, the power to change change our lives just to wake up to our own truth and to acknowledge that decision-making is a key piece in the puzzle that we are putting together. And now, with this understanding, it all takes on a new meaning, a new outlook, a new chance to be better each and every day, slowly, patiently, and with certainty of what, deep down, we're all on the same quest for authenticity and fulfillment. For this reason, when you think about the depth of this journey, I realize that it is a true work of art in progress, with a solid construction, which requires the full attention, the courage to face the unknown, and a sincere desire to evolve. After all, it is the impact of all of this. It goes far beyond that of our external actions. It reverberates in our lives, the way we think, feel, and live. And in it, we have become the protagonists of a story that, although silent, it has the potential to transform the world around us. It's a decision every single time. It is in this spirit that we follow, knowing that every step taken in the direction of truth and authenticity and self-knowledge, that is, a seed is planted in the eternity of your own journey and evolution. He comments that it makes no sense to me, and writing that I'm on this journey too. If you've read this far, I want to say thank you for joining our conversation up until the very end. I think that, in a way that would have created a connection, an opportunity to reflect together on the path of self-discovery and growth. If you did, leave a like in this video here. It's a way of showing that it was useful for you, and also strengthens you in this trade-off that we're under construction. And if you have any ideas, questions, or up to an experience that is related to what we talked about, leave a comment. It can be something that has made sense to you, or is it something that has sparked a whole new perspective? After all, I'm on this journey is a phrase that is a good representation of this movement, share, and learn together. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, take this time to do so. Here, the goal is to make content that makes you reflect, grow, and if you understand it better, and keep it in a very light and authentic. Every video is an opportunity to deepen that connection with you and that the universe of possibilities that we're under construction. And to continue this conversation, there's a video right here on the side, which complements this subject. You can click and keeps me there. I'm pretty sure that you will love to explore these themes with a calm and learn at your own pace. So stay with me and even close to the content, because the journey is just beginning.